Recently, I have realized something very interesting. As I grow older, my priorities have also changed. The things I once considered essential, such as maintaining a large circle of friends, are no longer as important as they used to be. Honestly, after turning 70, I find that I no longer need friends in the way I once thought. This may sound strange, even somewhat extreme, but when I look back on my life, I see many reasons why I feel this way. And no, I'm not talking about loneliness. I'm talking about freedom. The freedom to live my life the way I want without being bound by unnecessary expectations or obligations that friendships can sometimes bring. In this video, I want to share with you 6 reasons why friendships are no longer as necessary as they once were when we enter the later years of our lives. Together we will explore how our mindset, personal freedom, and even our health can improve when we learn to let go of relationships that no longer serve us. I used to think that the more friends I had, the richer my life would be. I spent a lot of time maintaining relationships, sometimes just out of fear of losing connections. But then I realized that not all friendships remain relevant over time. Some relationships fade, some become burdens, and others I maintain simply out of habit, no longer bringing joy or value to my life. As I reached my 70s, I began to appreciate silence and personal space more than ever. I no longer felt the need to engage in small talk or attend gatherings that no longer fostered genuine connection. Instead, I dedicated time to myself, enjoying things that truly make me happy. Reading, taking walks, taking care of myself, and reflecting on life. I also realized that when I stopped worrying about maintaining unnecessary relationships, I had more time to focus on the people who truly matter, my family, and most importantly, myself. Health is another factor that changed my perspective on friendship. When I was younger, I could easily go out, meet friends, and participate in social activities. But as I age and my physical strength declines, I need to prioritize my comfort and self-care rather than forcing myself to maintain relationships out of obligation. I have learned to listen to my body, to allow myself to rest, and to understand that inner peace is far more important than trying to please others. Another important realization is that I have learned to enjoy my independence without feeling lonely. I used to worry that having fewer friends would make life dull, but in reality I found the opposite to be true. When I no longer felt pressured to maintain friendships, I felt much lighter and freer. I can do what I love in the way I want without worrying about being judged by others. And the truth is, when I live authentically, I attract genuinely meaningful relationships, fewer but more valuable ones. Of course, I do not deny the value of friendship. If a relationship brings joy and comfort, I still cherish it. But I no longer feel the need to maintain friendships simply out of habit or fear of loneliness. I have learned to let go of what no longer fits, and that has made me feel lighter than ever. After all, I have realized that turning 70 is not a time to worry about how many friends I have, but a time to enjoy life in my own way, and I have never felt freer or happier than I do now. Let's explore this together in today's video. The number 1 reason. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. Think back to your younger years, a time when friendships were often tied to self-affirmation, fitting in, and sometimes saving face. When I was young, I was the same. I used to worry about how others perceived me, tried to impress people, and longed to belong to a certain group. But as time passed, I realized an important truth. Those things no longer matter when we step into the later years of our life. At 70, I no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. I have lived long enough to understand that my value does not come from others' recognition, but from within myself. I no longer care about being invited to social gatherings or how many people surround me. I no longer feel the need to maintain relationships just to uphold a certain image. I am who I am, and that is enough. I think of Robert, a friend I have known for a long time. He spent his entire life pursuing a career, building his reputation, and always having a group of friends around him. But when he retired, Robert realized that most of those people were not truly his friends. They were merely connections maintained for work benefits. or out of habit. At first, Robert tried to stay in touch, believing that friendships could continue even when work no longer tied them together. But over time, he noticed that conversations became forced and meetings no longer brought joy. He asked himself, "Am I doing this for them or for myself?" And then, Robert decided to let go. He spent time on himself, rediscovering forgotten hobbies, enjoying peaceful days without worrying about what others thought of him. And that was when he realized something important. When he no longer felt pressured to maintain unnecessary relationships, he truly felt free. No more small talk just for the sake of appearances, no more trying to please everyone, no more need to be liked. I believe this is something many people at this stage of life can relate to. We have spent our entire lives striving, building our image and meeting others' expectations. But now, that no longer matters. It is time to live for ourselves, without seeking validation from anyone. Do you feel the same way? Have you ever held on to a relationship simply out of fear of losing a connection, even when you knew it no longer had meaning? If so, I want to tell you, you don't have to do that anymore. When you let go of the need to prove yourself, you will feel lighter, more at peace, and truly able to live life on your own terms. And trust me, there is nothing more wonderful than that. Number 2, peace becomes more valuable than socializing. As you grow older, a natural shift happens. Peace starts to become more valuable than socializing. Thinking back to your younger years, you might remember how being around people felt like an essential part of life. Parties, coffee meetups, long phone calls, all of these things once made you feel connected and fulfilled. But over time, you begin to cherish something else, something even more meaningful: silence. And not just external silence, but the kind of quiet that truly relaxes your mind, free from social pressures, expectations, or conversations that no longer interest you. The truth is that while friendships can bring joy, they also come with responsibilities. Keeping in touch, accepting invitations, ensuring relationships don't fade. There's nothing wrong with that, but at a certain stage in life, you have the right to ask yourself, do I still want to do this? Does it still bring me joy? I immediately think of Eleanor, a 76-year-old woman I once knew. When she was younger, she was always the center of social gatherings, always surrounded by a group of friends. Her schedule was constantly full: luncheons, weekend meetups, and long phone calls. But over time, she realized that many of these interactions no longer brought her joy. Instead, they left her feeling. The conversations became repetitive. Old stories were retold over and over. Some friends would call only to complain about life, while others seemed more interested in gossip than in meaningful discussions. The joy of friendship gradually turned into a responsibility, a routine that she no longer truly enjoyed. One day, Eleanor decided to step back. She stopped feeling guilty about declining invitations that no longer excited her. She no longer felt pressured to respond to every call or message immediately. Instead, she focused on what truly brought her happiness: taking longer walks, spending more time in nature, reading books she had always wanted to read, and most importantly, learning to embrace solitude. And that is the beauty of this stage in life. You don't have to fill your days with social activities just to feel connected. You don't need people around you constantly to validate your worth. You can choose peace over pressure, silence over noise. So, if you have ever felt guilty for wanting to spend more time alone, remember this: you are not withdrawing from life, you are embracing a new kind of happiness. A happiness that comes from within, independent of anyone else. And the best part, this kind of peace only gets better with time. You relate to this? If so, leave a comment with the number 2 below to let me know you're still following. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss future videos. Now, let's continue. Number 3, fewer friends, fewer disappointments. One of the greatest lessons life teaches us is that not everyone who is called a friend will walk with us for the entire journey. When you were young, you might have believed that friendships were forever. But as the years go by, you realize that not everyone stays. Some people are only present for a certain chapter of your life. Others drift away as life changes. And sometimes, the very people you once trusted the most are nowhere to be found when you need them. By the time you reach 70, you understand that having fewer friends not only frees you from unnecessary social obligations, but also spares you from needless disappointments. Friendship, no matter how beautiful, always comes with expectations. It could be the expectation to stay in touch regularly, to always be available to listen, or to maintain a connection despite the passage of time. But what happens when those expectations are not met? The result is disappointment and hurt. Have you ever experienced calling someone only to have your call go unanswered? Sending a message but never receiving a reply? Or feeling like you are the only one making an effort to keep the relationship alive, while the other person responds half-heartedly? At this stage of life, do you really want to carry those emotions with you? The answer is likely no. I think of Henry, a 78-year-old man I once met. He used to have a large circle of close friends, meeting regularly and sharing conversations. But as time passed, the gatherings became less frequent, the phone calls diminished, and he realized that some people only maintained relationships when they needed something, not because they genuinely wanted to. At first, he struggled to accept this. He wondered if he had done something wrong or if he had become less important to them. But then one day he had a realization. It wasn't that he had changed. It was that he had stopped trying to hold on to things that no longer served him. And that is what truly matters. When you stop expecting others to reciprocate, you free yourself from unnecessary disappointment. You no longer feel burdened when someone doesn't reach out first, nor do you feel disheartened when a friendship fades away. Instead, you focus on what truly matters. You. Choosing a simpler life does not mean isolating yourself. It simply means investing in relationships that are genuinely meaningful, those who are willing to listen to you and care about you, rather than those who only appear when they need something. Instead of maintaining a long list of acquaintances, why not devote your time to a few truly valuable connections? Sometimes, a deep conversation with a real friend is worth more than dozens of superficial interactions. And if there is no one who fits that role, then cherish the best relationship you can have, the one with yourself. If you have ever felt exhausted by one-sided friendships, remember this. You have the right to choose peace over obligation, simplicity over complexity. You don't need to maintain relationships out of duty. Let go of what no longer contributes to your happiness and focus on what truly matters. Number 4, your time becomes more valuable. As you enter the later years of your life, you begin to realize that time is the most precious asset you have. When we are young, we often feel as if time is limitless. Back then, spending hours on social gatherings, maintaining friendships, or engaging in casual conversations never seemed like a big deal. There was always enough time to keep in touch, to nurture friendships, and to ensure we remained present in others' lives. But when you reach 70, your perspective shifts. You understand that every moment of the day holds value, and when you grasp the true worth of time, you become more mindful of how you use it. Friendship, no matter how meaningful, requires an investment of both time and energy. There are meetups to arrange, messages to respond to, and conversations to maintain. Some relationships bring true joy, but many exist only out of habit or obligation, rather than genuine connection. So at this stage, you have the right to ask yourself, is this really how I want to spend my time? Does this friendship bring me happiness? Or is it just an obligation I have imposed on myself? Think about Eleanor, an 82-year-old woman who once had an incredibly busy social life. For decades, she attended gatherings, dinner parties, and countless phone calls with old friends. But over time, she started feeling exhausted. The conversations became repetitive, and the meetups no longer excited her the way they once did. Then one day, as she sat at a noisy dinner party filled with endless small talk and complaints, she suddenly realized, I don't want to spend my time like this anymore. So she made a change. She stopped accepting invitations out of mere politeness. She began declining social engagements that drained her energy. Instead, she devoted her time to what truly brought her joy, reading books she had put off for years, taking long walks in the park, enjoying music, and most importantly, living her days in peaceful fulfillment, just the way she wanted. And the surprising part, she never felt lonely. In fact, she felt freer and happier than ever. Because at this age, you don't owe anyone your time. You have spent a lifetime working, worrying, and taking care of others. Now, you deserve to use your time exactly as you wish, without obligations, without pressure, and simply by embracing what truly matters to you. So, if you have ever felt pressure to maintain relationships that no longer align with your life, remember that you have a choice. You don't need to spend your time on anyone or anything that does not bring value to you. This is your time, your life, and you have full control over how you spend it. Do you agree with this? If so, leave a comment with the number 4 below to let me know you're still following, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss future videos. Your support allows us to continue creating meaningful content to inspire you. Now let's continue. Number 5, inner companionship. One of the biggest misconceptions about aging is that we need a large group of friends to feel happy. But the truth is, the most important relationship we can have is the one we have with ourselves. As I entered my 70s, I realized that I had spent decades learning, growing, and evolving. I understood myself better than anyone else, and with that self-awareness came a wonderful realization: I am enough. For most of my life, I believed that happiness came from connections with others, that loneliness was something to be feared. But I have come to understand that there is a clear difference between being alone and feeling lonely. Loneliness comes from within, not from the number of people around us. The happiest people in their later years are not those with the most friends, but those who embrace solitude as an opportunity for self-discovery, reflection, and inner peace, without needing validation from the outside world. I think of Marianne, a 76-year-old woman I once met. She used to believe that in order to have a fulfilling life, she needed to constantly surround herself with people. She scheduled meetings, kept in touch with all her friends, and participated in numerous activities to avoid feeling left out. But over time, she realized that despite her busy social life, she often felt more exhausted than happy. Long conversations sometimes left her drained rather than enriched. The friendships she worked so hard to maintain had become habits rather than meaningful connections. And the most painful realization? She often had to adjust herself to fit into those interactions, trying not to be left behind, forcing herself to meet societal expectations she no longer wished to follow. One day, she stopped. She decided to spend time with herself, not as someone waiting for others to fill the emptiness, but as a friend to her own soul. She did things she loved without needing anyone's company. She took long walks without calling someone to chat. She went to a cafe with just a book, feeling no need to talk to anyone. She spent quiet evenings reflecting on her life, instead of attending social gatherings, just to avoid feeling alone. And the most surprising thing happened. She felt lighter, more peaceful, and happier than ever. This is something many people fail to realize. True companionship is not about how many people surround you, but about how comfortable you are with yourself. When we no longer rely on others to fill our time, entertain us, or validate our worth, we unlock a level of freedom that few ever attain. We no longer need external distractions to feel meaningful. We become our own source of joy, wisdom, and fulfillment. And the best part? When we truly enjoy our own company, we naturally attract relationships that are effortless and authentic. Instead of chasing friendships out of fear of loneliness, we allow the right people to enter our lives, those who respect our space, understand our value, and bring peace instead of pressure. These relationships do not require effort to maintain. They exist because both sides genuinely want them, not because of an unspoken obligation. So if you've ever feared that letting go of old relationships might leave you feeling alone, remember this: your greatest lifelong companion is yourself. When you accept this, when you learn to truly enjoy your own presence, you will realize that you have never really been alone. Number 6. Letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. One of the most powerful lessons I have learned after turning 70 is the ability to let go. Letting go of the pressure to maintain friendships that no longer bring joy. Letting go of the belief that my social circle defines my worth. letting go of the idea that being alone means being lonely. The moment I released these expectations, life became simpler, freer, and far more fulfilling. Many people hold on to friendships not because they truly need them, but out of habit. They attend gatherings they no longer enjoy simply because they always have. They answer phone calls they don't feel like taking just to avoid offending someone. They maintain the appearance of a busy social life even when they feel empty inside. But what if they didn't have to do any of that anymore? What would change if they allowed themselves to let go of friendships that had become burdens and instead dedicated their time to things that genuinely made them happy? I think of Robert, a man in his 70s who once believed that maintaining a busy social life was the key to aging happily. He kept in touch with old friends, even when those relationships had grown distant or lost their meaning. He participated in social activities simply because he thought staying busy meant staying happy. But over time he realized something important. He was no longer enjoying it. The conversations became repetitive, the gatherings felt more like routines than sources of joy, and deep inside, instead of feeling connected, he just felt tired. One day he made a decision. He stopped forcing himself to hold on to friendships that no longer brought value to his life. Instead, he focused on what truly mattered to him. He spent more time in nature, breathing in fresh air, enjoying peaceful mornings without rushing to a social event. He focused on his health, listened to his body, and prioritized self-care instead of investing energy in relationships that no longer fit. He learned new things, tried experiences he had never had time for before, and most importantly, he embraced the freedom of no longer feeling obligated to please anyone. And through that process, he discovered something incredible. He felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than ever before. By letting go of what no longer served him, he made space for what truly mattered, and that was a change worth making. After everything, I have come to understand that life at 70 is not about how many friends I have, but about the quality of my relationships, and most importantly, the quality of my life. This is the time to reflect, to evaluate what truly brings joy and meaning, and to release what no longer serves my happiness. For most of my life, I believed that friendships must be held on to at all costs. I feared that if I didn't maintain certain relationships, I would lose a part of myself. But now, I see that friendship is not an obligation. It is not something to keep just for the sake of habit, nor is it a measure of personal worth. Those who truly matter to me will remain naturally, without the need for effort or force. I have also realized that peace does not come from the number of people around me, but from how I feel about myself. When I no longer chase after social relationships out of fear of isolation, I find myself more relaxed, more at ease. I enjoy slow, unhurried days, listening to myself, doing things I truly love. Whether it's walking in the park, reading a good book, or simply appreciating the quiet of an unburdened afternoon, the most important lesson I have learned is this: I am not lonely. I am free. I no longer feel pressured to maintain the image of someone with a large circle of friends, always busy with social engagements. I no longer feel the need to please everyone. I no longer worry about the expectations that society imposes on me. I live life on my own terms, and I cherish every moment without feeling like something is missing. And the best part? When I let go of relationships that no longer fit, I also open the door to more authentic connections. Relationships that are not bound by obligation but built on true understanding and sincerity. The people I choose to keep in my life now are those who bring peace, not pressure. So if you are entering the later years of your life and feel uncertain about the relationships around you, I want you to remember this: you have nothing to prove to anyone. You don't need to hold on to friendships just because you fear losing something. You don't need to live according to others' expectation. This is your time, this is your life, and you have the right to choose how you want to live it. If that means letting go, let go. If that means choosing silence, choose silence. If that means focusing on yourself rather than maintaining relationships that no longer bring joy, then do so. You are not losing anything. You are simply making space to live a life that is truly fulfilling on your own terms. And trust me, when you truly embrace this, you will not feel lonely, you will feel freer than ever before.